Okay, this first one is a medium strength problem. It is not super easy. There's easier ones on the test tomorrow. But there's harder ones in the test too. It's doable. Some rules. You can't factor it, you should. Secondly, you can cancel it. You should. But you can't just cancel things that seem like they might cancel to you. You got to be sure. Remember, if you're canceling within a multiply problem, then that's going to probably be good. You can't cancel across an adding problem. Then you want a common denominator that will have one of each thing. By now, hopefully, you've already factored this into x plus 2 and x minus 2. So if you're looking for a common denominator, this one's got an x plus 2, an x minus 2. That one also had an x minus 2. Do we need two of them? No, just need one of them. And it has an x. That's enough help for you for now. See if you can get it all done. Denominator part will be easy. The hard part is figuring out the answer to the final answer on the numerator, the top part. If you're lost, I encourage you to think of it this way. This fraction right here, you can't add these fractions yet because you haven't got a common denominator. You'll have to times by something here and something there, something here and something there, to get this to have a common denominator. There is another way somebody might be onto, in which case, go for it. You'll need a common denominator, then you'll be able to add the top sum. I'll pause for a second while you give that a try. Okay, if you do this the normal way, you would say, I need one of each. An x plus 2, I need an x minus 2, and I need an x. Raise your hand if you did that for your common denominator. Okay, now, there's another way. The other way would be, I said something about canceling. Did anybody notice that this x could cancel with this x? It can. It's not going across a plus sign. You know, this plus sign is separating these two parts. But you can cancel that x right there. You didn't have to, but you can. If you do cancel the x right there, then I don't need an x in my common denominator. All right, did anybody do it that way? Several people did. Okay, so if you do it that way, then we won't need an x in our common denominator. And then I would say, okay, well, what do we need? This one has a plus 2 and a minus 2. I don't even have to touch it. I don't have to do anything to it. It's already got the common denominator. And this one needs an x plus 2 on the top and the bottom. And then, final answer, 7 plus x plus 2. Can the 7 go with the x? No. Can the 7 go with the 2? Yes. X plus 9 over x plus 2, x minus 2. Does anybody have that answer? Okay, now for those of you that didn't do it that way, I'm going to back up. I know that canceling the x out freaked a lot of people out. You do not have to cancel that x out. So, if I'm not going to cancel that x out, here's how I do it, yes? Okay, so if you want to multiply it all the way out, that's not a great idea because you will a lot of times not notice things that cancel. But if your answer is perfect and multiplied out, it is okay. Let me just, I already answered your question to the best of my ability. All right, moving on. This needs an x and an x now. Why? Because I need all three parts to have a common denominator. This one's already got the x and the x minus 2. See, it's already got this and that. It just needs one of those, an x plus 2. So x plus 2 and x plus 2. How many of you did it that way? Okay. So those of you that did it that way, here's how you finish them. We already know the denominator. Do I need to multiply this all the way out? No. Leave it factored. Factored's a good thing. Then I just need to do the top. 7x plus, got to multiply this out, x squared plus 2x. So that's going to be x squared plus 2x plus 7x, which is really x squared plus 9x, right? And if you left it that way, sadly, you would get it marked wrong because you didn't factor it if you can. If you can factor it, you should. You see at the top, factors now? If you can factor it, you should. That factors. So you'd have x times x plus 9 over all of that stuff down here. And then do you get, now the x can cancel? The x you didn't notice could have canceled before can cancel now. And the answer is the same as what I said it was 2 seconds ago. X plus 9 over x plus 2, x minus 2. Now, if you had, up to here, if you had this answer, I'm proud of you. That's pretty much it. You just didn't notice that if you can factor that, you should. And once you factor it, things cancel. That's why I was telling you not to just leave them all multiplied out, because you never noticed that that x was here. Okay, that's a tricky one. Now, here's another one. It's not, I don't think it's as hard. Okay, give this one a try. There's something that'll cancel, but you may not want to cancel it. You don't have to. You can if you want to. At the very end, you have to cancel everything, but if you're in the middle of the problem, you just want to stick to getting the common denominator, it's okay. So as you're starting this course, you're looking to can factor it, you should. And then getting the common denominator worked out. And then figuring out what to multiply this by and what to multiply this by to make it have that common denominator. When you're done, please compare with the person sitting across from you. Pause while you give that a shot. Okay, here we go. I would start by factoring this part right here, and you should have got x plus 2, x plus 1. Raise your hand if you got that part right. One little victory at a time. Okay, next. You guys turn around, please. All right, next. This is x plus 2 and x minus 2. How many of you factored that part right? Okay, good. Next, you have to ask yourself, do they have the same denominator right now? No. And therefore, I got to choose a denominator, and I always like to make a separate one because my answer is going to go down there anyway. And it needs an x plus 2 in it, and an x plus 1 in it, and let's see, it also needs an x minus 2. Does that have one of everything? I think that's the right denominator, isn't it? Raise your hand if you agree. Okay, good. Then, I got one of these, one of those, and I already had one of those, so it's one of those. All right. So now, I got to ask myself, this denominator here, what's it missing to be the common denominator? It needs an x minus 2. It doesn't have one of these. So, x minus 2 here, x minus 2 there. Raise your hand if you did that part right. Good. Now the next one. This guy over here has got two parts of the denominator, the 2's, and it doesn't have an x plus 1. So it needs an x plus 1 here and an x plus 1 there. Okay. Now, moral of the story, never mess with your denominator then. It's all fine. And I'm going to leave it like this right here. All I need to do is the top now. Now I need to multiply this out. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 2 is negative 4x. Now this little negative right here is probably going to crash many of you because we have to put it on everything. So I'm going to go x squared plus outside and inside 3x plus last is 2. And then I throw this negative on each part. It's distributed. So negative x squared, negative 3x, and negative 2. How many of you, be honest, how many of you that caught you? All right, 3, 4, 5 people. Okay. Now let's finish the deal. 2x squared minus an x squared makes x squared. 4x and the 3x, they're both negative, make negative 7x. And the minus 2 at the end. Can that factor? Important to check. Can that factor or not? It cannot factor. So then, I'm done. The denominator's still here. X plus 2, x plus 1, and x minus 2. That is as hard as anything you would have in the test tomorrow. Also, test tomorrow, a couple other happy thoughts. Number one, it doesn't count that much. I would say it's an overall factor of about 2 to 3% in your grade. Okay, so as in 2 or 3% of your quarter grade will be this test, as opposed to 85% for regular tests. Right. So it's a small portion of your grade. It's in the 15% category, but judging by there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there, this won't be worth tons. Next thought. It's 9 questions. If you can get 6 out of the 9 questions right, we'll have an A. Do you get how that's better than normal? Normally you need 9 out of 10 to get an A. You need 6 out of 9 right to get an A. And it obviously drops after that, such that you can even have half of them right instead of passing grade on this test. That's better than that. So, anyway, don't stress too much. But it counts. It's like we tried to make it so it matters, but doesn't matter a huge amount. Want your last test to like crash your grade? Yes. Is it multiple choice? No, the test tomorrow is not. The final is. But this test tomorrow is like 9 regular questions. Okay. Now, this is a little 3-question mini test. Some of them are easier than what you just did. One of them, this one right here, I want to note, this little practice question is a multiply problem. Do you need a common denominator when you multiply? No, so it's a lot easier. Just a whole bunch of factoring and canceling, and you'll get your answer on that one. Okay, so number 2 is the easy one. All right. Give this one a shot. If you can get 2 out of 3 right on this, I would say you're on track for an A or a B+ tomorrow. Okay? 3 questions. I'll give you a few minutes to give these a try. So, number 1. I'm going to show you how each of these works. Pay attention. Okay. Turn around, please. Thank you. All right. On this first one, we are going to factor it. So this part becomes x minus 4 and x minus 1. And then, if you notice, this can cancel this. See how much simpler that's going to be? Look at that common denominator now. They both have a denominator of x minus 1. If you did not notice that, you would probably have gone on to make the common denominator be x minus 4 and x minus 1. And you would have put an x minus 4 here and here, and that's okay. But you would have had to cancel it at the end anyway, so that your denominator, it'll either cancel at the beginning or the end. If you canceled it here, awesome. There's a 1 left over. 1 over x minus 1 plus x minus 3 over x minus 1. And then they have a common denominator, so I can put the 1 with the negative 3 and make a minus 2. X minus 2 over x minus 1. There's your answer. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Awesome. If you did not, it's probably because you did not notice that the x minus 4 canceled. And then let's say for a moment you didn't ever notice it. All you have to do is make an x minus 4 here. Then they have a common denominator. Don't talk, please. Then I can put this and this all together. And when I'm all done multiplying it all the way out, I'll have, on the bottom, x minus 4 and x minus 1. And on the top, I'll have x squared minus 7x plus 12. But then I add the minus 4 in with the plus 12. It makes it plus 8. And then I put that positive x here in with this negative 7x and make it negative 6x. And then, if anybody had this answer, you're so close to right, but had to factor it. If you can factor, you should. So you factor the top and you get x minus 4 and x minus 2. And then I have on the bottom x minus 4. Oh my gosh, same thing. I can cancel it. That's why the answer is x minus 2 over x minus 1 either way. But if you had this, x squared minus 6x plus 8 in your answer, I feel sad for you because you didn't factor it all the way. All right, good. Move on. Okay, wait, how many out of number 1 right? Raise your hand if you were just right. You can count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so that's a little more than half of you. Okay, this next one is the easy one. I'm hoping a lot of people get this one right. X squared minus 9 is x plus 3, x minus 3. And then here, x plus 4, x minus 4. Then the canceling. I have an x minus, or sorry, x plus 3 can cancel this, x plus 3. We have an x minus 4 can cancel this, x minus 4. And then what's left on the top is x plus 3, x minus 3. And what's left on the bottom? X plus 4. Could you have multiplied the top out and said x squared minus 9? Sure. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Almost everybody awesome. On to the last one. This one, it can factor on the bottom here, x plus 1, x plus 6. And over here, x plus, help me, 6, x plus 2. That's right. Okay, now, do they have a common denominator? No, they don't. So that's the point of this problem, is you've got to find a common denominator. So I draw a line, and my denominator is going to have an x plus 1 in it. It's going to have an x plus 6 in it. It's going to have an x plus 2 in it. But wait, couldn't I have canceled the x plus 2? Look close, right here. Look on the board. You get there's an x plus 2 on the top and an x plus 2 on the bottom. Couldn't I cancel that? Yep. So that would have saved you time. But if you don't notice something like that, it really doesn't hurt. You just have to wait till later and cancel it later. Question on that, Miss S? Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. I changed the question. I rewrote it down without changing this to a 7. My bad. You are right. That's a 7. So I could not have canceled an x plus 2. Okay, sorry about that. Changed the question. In my first hour, they had that. Fun. All right, so now I'm thinking, how does this differ from my common denominator? It's got the plus 1, it's got the plus 6, it needs an x plus 2. So I got to do that on the top and the bottom. How does this differ from my common denominator? It needs an x plus 1. So if I put an x plus 1 down there, I need an x plus 1 up here. How many of you are right so far on this one? Okay, good. Next step, the denominator's already done. It's all about not the base, it's all about the top. Okay, so now I'm going to have a 3x squared plus 6x. And now this, I'm going to multiply out for 7x plus 7, but they both have a negative on them. Negative 7x and a negative 7. That negative right there messes up so many people. Got to distribute that negative. Then these two can go together and make negative x. So I'm just going to erase them and put negative x, okay? Because 6x minus 7x makes negative x. And I now, unless I can factor it more, can I factor that top? No. So if I could have factored it, I should. Can factor it, you should. Because that way I might have canceled one of those things in the bottom. But it doesn't factor. So you're done. And that's your answer. Who had that one right? Almost everybody. Who had at least 2 out of 3 right on this? Nice. Okay. Anybody have the perfect 3? Who had the perfect 3? Okay, good. So, I have one last thing to tell you about. What if I'm dividing fractions? It's just pretty much multiplying fractions, right? Which one gets flipped? First one or second one? Second one. So if I change this problem to the same at the beginning, x over, I just changed it to x plus 2 instead of 2 plus x. Here, right here, I just reversed these two. And then I changed it to times, and I flipped it. This went up to the top and became 4 minus x on the top. And I changed 3 plus x into x plus 3. Anyway, so I changed it to a multiply. Now I multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. Then, what are you supposed to ask yourself? After I've multiplied this out, can I factor it? Well, it was already factored back here. Did you get it was factored already back here? X was factored out, and I had a 4 minus x. And on the bottom, it's just multiplied out. So again, would I have even had to have multiplied it all the way out? No. It was this was good. This was in the box was good. It just isn't multiplied out, and we do not require that you multiply it out unless you can multiply it out and then refactor it again. Because we want it in factored form so we can see if stuff cancels. Okay. So that's the new stuff for today. I think you're going to find it pleasantly easy because last night's was really hard one. I get that. Would you please right now try to find the worksheet for today? I'll pause while I pull that up. Okay, so this one is number 1. I have so far just factored it, and then I took this part right here and I turned it into a multiply by, and I flipped the fraction over. Multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so now some stuff can cancel. Everybody sees the x minus 1s, but a lot of people don't see something else. The x, and x. And how about something else? The 2 and the 4. Think of the 4 as a 2 times 2, and then I can cancel one of the 2's. There. I think that's it. Final answer, it's that with 2 in front. 2 times x plus 5. All over, and what's on the bottom? Just an x. There's your answer for number 1. All right, lots of factoring on this sheet, lots of flipping and multiplying on this sheet. Let's look at number 6. Technical issues here. Ah, there it is. That's right. Okay, looking at number 6. There. Up. Okay. This is a divide problem because of that line right there. I'm going to change it to a multiply problem. 2x minus 1 over x squared times, flip it, x over, and if I could just factor this thing right now, I'd be really smart. Doing that part right there, and I'm just thinking I should factor it. 2 doesn't go into everything, so it must be a 2x and an x. And then how do I get a negative 2? It must be a negative 2 and a positive 1, or a positive 2 and a negative 1. I think that's it. Outside's 4x, inside's negative 1, makes 3x on the inside. Yay, I did it right. Now that I did that, I bet you could see stuff that cancels. I see stuff that cancels. Cancel, cancel. That's just one other thing that cancels. All right. That's the idea. Now this kind at the very end, you have to get a common denominator and add it. And then separately, get a common denominator and add it. And then flip and multiply. This is some serious stuff. You did sign up for an honors class. It's going to be hard problem. On the test, that would be like the hardest problem if there was one like that. Okay, so these are the hardest of the hard problems. Okay, so tomorrow, remember that part of the hour is taking the test. The other part of the hour I will start reviewing with you for the final. Kind of giving you an overview of here's the stuff you should do to prepare for the final. We will have about 1 week at that point left to study for your final. Not a whole 5-day kind of week, but your final will happen near the end of next week. Not actually at the end of next week. Let me think. Next week, we have a full week, don't we? One of the days you don't. That's right. That's right. The next week you'll have one of the hours, one of the class hours, you'll have a 2-hour session with me, and the other hour you won't meet with me. So, but this still effectively means it's 5 hours of class next week, right? Anyway, you'll have about 5 sessions where we can review, and you'll get a lot of review in at that point. And that's all we have for you for today.